I'm Ken Kroll. Those of you who don't know me, Jonathan Porter, I teach this class. So we'll go over kind of a high-level set of objectives for the course. We'll talk about the syllabus and stuff that's just been up on Canvas today. Jonathan will take a few minutes and he'll talk about his background. And then I'm going to give you my background and I'm going to tell you some stories from my work experience that will be relevant, I think, to some of our coursework, things that we'll refer to back in class. And then, I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves. And there's a point to why I'm going to have you guys talk about what you do. You guys are going to pick your teams today that you're working on. A lot of the assignments are group assignments, maybe 40%, 45% of the class is group assignments. So I'm going to ask you to talk about these particular things. And then it'll be great. And then we'll do a short little exercise after that. Any questions before we get started? Nothing? All right. So, how many of you read through the syllabus? I know we just went up earlier today. A handful? Okay. Let me get the questions out of the way that I think you'll have when you get around to taking over this. First of all, how many of you use Canvas before? How many of you like Canvas? How many of you like WebCC better than Canvas? Ooh, 1, 2. Okay. Well, surprise. All right. We're sticking with Canvas because I had to make a decision to switch, and I made a decision a couple of years ago with one of the other pilots. It sucks, but it doesn't suck as badly as the question. You good? All right. So we have a copy of the syllabus up on the Canvas system, the instructor Canvas system. We won't put everything in terms of calendar items inside Canvas, so we'll be a little bit selective in terms of what we put up there. We will put your actual groups up there. We will put your grades up in Canvas. And we will make notices to the class, reminders to things, or some, heaven forbid something changes. We cancel class and certain notices. It's kind of unlikely since there's two of us, but we have a bomb here or something. All right. If you have our contact information here, Jonathan and I both have day jobs, so we'll give you our personal email addresses here and our personal cell phones. We don't have campus hours, so it's not like we're hanging around. You can just meet us. My experience has been, if you want to meet us, we'll just take time before after class, or you can just come back up here. Or you can just, we both look downtown, someplace else, coffee shop. Required textbooks. None of these books require coursework. The first book, Venture Capital Investing, I think it's terrible. Jonathan, what do you think it's terrible? It was too late to switch it, but it's still terrible. Well, I've been teaching this course for like 6 years now. And it was terrible when I started, and it's still terrible. And there's maybe one book that is better than this that we may switch to in the future. So if you're not completely convinced that you have to have a textbook, I don't know if it's what's required. Right? I used to have this in the optional field, and Jonathan moved it back up to the required. You can't get it at the bookstore. You could get it electronically online. If English is not your native language and you're more comfortable with reading materials and what we cover in the lecture, then you might want to get a copy. Jonathan's done a really good job of mapping the lecture materials to the actual sections in the textbook. You can get through 80 or 85% of the course of the questions you'll have on the exams, probably by reading the book. So even though it's dry and it's boring, that would be one option for you. The second book is excellent. Term Sheets Evaluation. It's really short, it's really cheap, and because it's excellent and cheap, it will not stop at the bookstore. And some of you will be lucky right after class to go down to the library. I think you can get this book online as well. But you probably won't use it for a couple of weeks. So if you want to actually buy a copy, or buy copies for your group, and say, like, whoever is your best presenter is to the poem, like a party gift at the end of the semester, you could do something like that. The third set of required materials are online, and I aspire to having everything free and online for you guys. You don't necessarily need to go to Brainiac to see the URLs that are actually YouTube equivalents as well. But those are some lecture materials that we think are better viewed on your own in really short settings than trying to get through the class. So specifically, when you get to the section about preferred terms and some structures when you decide to make an investment, you're better off going to those. And if you ever get into this world and you're trying to remember what you can say about liquidation preferences, you can always go back in those materials and take the two primary. So so you can look smart and the optional book, this is the really good one, right? Venture Capital and Private Equity, the learner.
I honestly haven't read the whole thing. I like the idea. I like concepts more than I like details.
Okay, so I think this is a much better book than the Venture Capital Investment book, but we haven't started using the class yet, so we're putting it here as optional reading. And I'll let Jonathan talk to the new optional pieces. I followed blogs, self blogs before, so that was mine. So it's been 2 years since I used the understanding term sheet section. You can forget about that for now. We'll bring it up again in about 2 years. Okay. As I mentioned, we don't have formal office hours because, for good or for bad, Jonathan and I are not real professors. Right? Jonathan and I work in the industry. We do this for fun. If it ever stops being fun, we'll just hang out with our families. But we like you guys. We like the students. We like this material. This is the kind of thing we work around in good work. And we'd like to see you guys be successful and make a good community for us here or wherever you go. So that's really good stuff for us. I'm going to go through calculators, objectives, preparation, that sort of stuff. We'll have team assignments, like I mentioned, 45%. I don't know if you can rate the participation of each of the people in the team. Jonathan and I'll make that decision later. You'll definitively be graded on your participation as a team and how you interact with some of the rest of the team. We do have a handful of assignments. Maybe the one that's most noteworthy is if you have a guest speaker that you may have in the room, then you guys will owe us credit on the guest speaker. It's not like a resuscitation of we had Todd Stevens in. Todd Stevens is a capitalist, he does this. So we already know that material, and we're assuming that you were here to pay attention. But we're looking for some sort of interpretation on what was said. So it could be, here's a way to apply something that was said in my current academic career, in my current work experience, or in future work experience. You could be so bold and look at the intention of this is to say, I totally disagree with the speaker, and let me tell you a couple points as to why I disagree. I'm looking for an application of something that was mentioned by the guest speaker to yourself. And then we'll talk more about that after we have the guest speaker. We do have a handful of assignments and papers that are due as group projects. The checklist and the scorecard will be the first one that you do. It will be a structure for you, group of you and your teammates. You'll be one general partner inside the investment. And you'll have to have a set of rules and guidelines to decide how you can make an investment. And that's what we're looking for on this checklist. You can find some examples of things online. We'll talk about some examples in class about how you may or may not structure a company. I think this is moved later than it used to be, so you get a few weeks class, like 4 or 5, before that assignment's actually due. But that will help you do some of the rest of the work. One of the things you have to do as a group is you have to find a business plan. I put this in red to start finding a business plan. As someone who runs a private equity or venture fund or hedge fund or something like that, you have to find something to invest in. So we're putting burden on you to say, you need to go out and find something that you want to invest in. If it's interesting for you, pick something that you're interested in. There are students at the university who are involved in business plan competitions. They might have something that interests you. You've got a family that's a family member or friend that runs a business. They might put together some sort of plan. You don't need the plans to be real detailed. There's the trend away from actual business plans that are thick Word documents like 100 pages into really lightweight PowerPoint presentations. One of the things that would be really helpful, though, in the business plan that you collect is a set of pro forma financials. So a set of financial projections in the future. We think we're going to do this many million the first year, however many million the second year, however many the third year. Something like that will prove very handy for you when we do the second piece. The second piece is investment analysis. You'll actually take this investment and you'll make some decisions think about whether or not you think it's a good investment, and how much money you think you would make if you would make fictitious investment. The term sheet will be, as a team, you're actually going to have a fund structure and create the fund yourself. So you get a chance to decide, my private equity firm, my venture capital firm, how are the general partners organized, what does the financial incentive structure look like, how do we attract new partners. Jonathan's our resident expert in that, so you may talk about that today, we'll definitely talk about it. All right. Deal term sheet. You'll need to put an offer together to make an investment in the company. It's a relatively simple process. You can copy and paste a lot of the terms from term sheets that put together. I feel a link to one specifically. I think that's still good. Again, we'll talk about this when we get a little closer to the assignment. But the gist of the term sheet is not copying and pasting. I'm sure you're all very good at that. But the idea is, for example, if you have a liquidation preference on preferred stock, there's 2 or 3 kind of major ways to do that. And I'm looking for you to pick one and be able to say, I picked this type because of this particular reason. Some of the books will categorize them as, hey, this way is a lot more entrepreneur friendly, and this other way is investor friendly. It's not a good idea to go through and say, hey, we picked all of the investor friendly terms because we're such a good private equity firm. What that actually means is, if you pick all the rest of these terms and you get investor friendly terms, you're going to actually pay more for your investment. So, one way you negotiate on deal is you negotiate about the valuation of the business, and how much money goes in. So you're negotiating over how much the business is own. And the other thing when you negotiate in the same transaction is what sort of terms go into this deal, and you'll trade off back and forth between the valuation. So I want you to put some thought into what that's going to look like. And then the last thing that you'll do as a group is you'll make a recommendation in class. We'll talk in a minute about which day that is, where you recommend for the rest of the class as a good group of 5 or 6. Here's the thing that we want to make an investment in. You'll have to make a compelling argument for us in 15 minutes, which is about the attention span of your average venture capitalist. And give you this enough for the rest of us to explain what your idea is and why it's a good idea to use the money there and how much money you use. Again, there's no extra credit work class. It's the basic rules of academic integrity. And you have a student shooting class once and I confidently turn that. So luckily that's only happened in months. Okay. On class communication, Jonathan and I are not going to be checking Canvas every day. We'll go in there and kind of put stuff up as we do. So if you guys need to get a hold of us, you're welcome to call us on the cell phones or better. Send us an email at the email address. But heaven forbid, don't send us an email on Canvas and think like, hey, I can't believe I emailed Ken and Jonathan on Monday night and here it is Monday morning, a week later, and they haven't got back to me. Please don't check. But if you need to get a hold of us. All right. So we split the course so that we would have me for part and Jonathan for part, or one of the 2 of us as a guest speaker. This is what we believe the first schedule is like. You don't have to have something like that every day. On the 17th of June, we'll have a midterm class. We'll either have it in here and we need to bring it in to do it, or we can do it in the lab. You guys have a preference? You all in here? You guys all comfortable getting into the testing of the system for Canvas? Is that cool?
Let me give a little bit of perspective on the organization. This is the first time Ken and I have taught this together. He's done it on his own for about 2 years, longer years. Yeah. I actually met Ken taking this class when I was in BSC 2000. Started going to concerts together and bringing our lives and talking shop and now we just stay in touch. So this is my first time teaching this type of setting. And I'm bringing a little bit of a different perspective from the classroom students and allowing me to do that. I think it would be helpful. What we've done on each day, first we've separated the 2 halves even issues of liability and governmental jurisdiction. I come with a legal background, student, as a degree MBA student. So I will be bringing in a lot more of what I do, which is not the deal market. It's more the investors' negotiation for a subscription into the budget. So first thing we've done to make it easier on you is basically every day we're going to split it into two sections. So you don't have to hear either of us the entire time. Hopefully you don't have to hear a combination of both of us for the entire 4 hours. So the first half of the class, almost all the way up until the midterm, is going to be more focused on setting the fund up as a team. And as Ken was going through the assignments, one of them is actually out of the very first assignment here would be the team fund term sheet. So there's a fund term sheet and a deal term sheet. So what we'll be leading up to, talk about structures on the whiteboard today, various investors, offshore structures, feeding into onshore, etc. And then we'll go straight into some of the core terms in my second lecture next week. It's going to be focused on the economic terms. And then we have a guest speaker following week. I'll talk about the non-economic terms. And after that lecture, you should be at the point as a team where you're comfortable putting together a term sheet. I'll give you some templates on that. So that will be, once we have formed our entity and been through a lot of the structure and started getting into a little bit of the management team and input the deal selection, we'll have that midterm exam. And then that's when we shift down into, okay, now we've got this fund, pretty confident, we've got a good team, we like the way it's running, we've got our objectives. Now we're focusing a lot more on that deal that we're going to present. So I agree that early on, think about the deal because you're going to need to make sure that the deal you choose is consistent with the structure you have. So that's most of what I'm bringing to the class. And then we cram like what Ken already has for 3 years of education in itself. The money good. Yeah. Into more of the later half. And all of these will be leading up to that presentation. The investment checklist for the due diligence on the deal.
Yeah, the presentation is actually really easy because you're going to take all the recipes you just drew and essentially summarize it for us in 15 minutes. The hard part about that assignment is really being able to apparently remove all stuff that's not relevant and make a concise presentation that has to.
The MBA program for me isn't that too far back in my memory. And I recall dreading team projects a lot of the time. This is really a subject that, even in the private sector and the real world, there is no way to survive and be successful without working with a team. We're going to later, towards the end of today's class, give you an opportunity to put teams together in a way that gives you some choice and options.
But not as easy as like,
Yeah, not as many.
but it's more like what's going to be in real life.
And so, I understand that there may be difficulties with this and maybe different motivations or level of intensity and motivation. But this hopefully will be pretty fun and pretty good.
There's not a lot of variation between team assignments like there would be on individual. My experience has been, everybody's kind of the same plus or minus 5% for most of the team assignments. At least it has been in the past few years. But the exams, even though they're half the grade, some people can be 30%, 40% higher than exams are tough. Pay attention, you should be okay, but we'll give you some practice. Before we go forward, do you guys have any questions? If you're quiet group. So it is in the Canvas system. We just put it up this morning. And some of you told me you've already seen it, so I'm assuming this. Other questions? Yes.
Lecture notes usually post on before class or is this after class?
I never post it because I don't really know what we talk about until we get to class. For that reason, we will have a review where we'll go over all the relevant topics that will be on the exam. So I will put that burden back on you guys to take the notes or to get together with your team and make sure you understand it. This will not be a lot. There will not be a lot of the exam that there won't be anything on the exam that we're going to talk about next, right? But you'll notice we'll talk about things in class, and then the next time we have class, we'll give you an overview of the things we talked about the time before. So if you miss anything in your notes, or if you miss a class period, and you make some extra notes, that's a good time to pick up a summary. And then you'll notice that when we do the review for the term for the final, or when we do the practice exam for those, you'll also see that same period. So we'll go over a bunch of things. So I hope that makes up for the practice. It doesn't have notes in the same. It's a finance class, which typically involves a lot of math. Really, this is more about the aspect of the finance industry, everything that happens. The only really math intensive portion is going to be the spreadsheet. Even so, I think spreadsheet analysis is like basically, like you got to do some dividing, but we're not doing quantitative physics in the class. Maybe the hardest part about the exams with that is you've got some sort of problems, right? We're going to give you some real world scenarios and say, if you have this thing and it's worth X amount, and then you invest $2 million in it, how much money, is the company worth, and what percent you own? And then if this other thing happens, how much money do you get back, right? You need to be able to walk through and be able to use some applied formulas, and we'll go, again, over a couple times in class. You need to be able to apply those to your basic questions. If you're wondering why you would do any of this stuff, this class is really designed so that there isn't any general partner. My world is really from finding the deal, getting the structure, getting the investment done. And Jonathan's world is really raising money to be able to get that deal done in the first place. But you'll find that even if you never go into work in venture capital, private equity, in that world, it's still helpful if you ever raise any sort of money or are involved in the company that you're raising money, to understand what the people across the table from you are negotiating and why they're negotiating. I think there's no better way to understand somebody that's going to be opposite you in structure than to have been in their position and try to make their decisions on time. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. Yes.
So I've got a little bit
So Jonathan's a better judge of this than I am, right? Because Jonathan's actually taking money. I consider the first book to be an optional. If English is not your native language, it would be really helpful since we're covering a lot of this stuff with verbal lectures. But Jonathan's done a good job of mapping the materials that we talk about every day to the actual section. You get 80-85% of those people. I do not know how to do
So he's basically called a line that the words out there, either an email or a call from the instructor, and they go get that and they'll purchase the book and put it on reserve or something like that.
That'd be great. So I think they would have for the next summer if we told them now. Probably not for you guys.
You should go get that book and stick it in the
Really?
That professor didn't have it all last year, so we did it.
So I know that they have that book that we have. But your question is, assuming you check it out, you can tell.
No, it's like, it's on the reserve desk, so the reserve desk that holds the students to check out for free for a few hours at a time when you go in. Yeah, they have all the.
We'll get them, yeah, you will send us an email.
Check out legal.
But I think what you're hearing is, you just go to my company, and we can talk that down to the optimum. That we're really we're gonna focus on our experience and collections. And we're struggling to do that, and that's very helpful. Just buy it, you might want to see that. A lot of what I would be teaching on the fund formation itself is kind of the hardly covered in that book. But it does go through human negotiation and deal with that. It's awesome. All right, that's good. We had a good more questions there. That was it. You guys good? Ken tells a really cool story. That, I'm gonna say what I call it. Ken Stewart. It's Ken came from. Maybe it's just a. They'll probably spend the rest of the class. This professor video is so awesome. I'm just going to take 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes to give you my background. As I mentioned, I was a student I started law school here at SJ in 2005, knowing that I didn't ever want to work for a law firm, and I was almost certainly going to do a business program as well. After the first year of law school, I started doing this program with MBA. And it was through an intro session in the first year of business Utah retirement system. Came in and they just did a session on they were looking for investment analysts. And I had played a lot with my stock portfolio, thought I knew what I was doing. This is going to completely discredit me. I'm going to tell you how I got the money to run those portfolios. For some reason, aside from my Capital One credit card and my other Capital One credit card, which each had $6,000 or $7,000 in them. And by the way, back then, they would give you checks that you could write your interest rate, not as your tax advance rate, but your regular interest rate, which is 7%. American Express was also not very wise in giving me 2 products. You had $30,000. And I had never heard of this before, by the way. And they, this might be longer than 5 minutes. They also offered 0% balance transfer fee and 0% APR for both of those, the blue and the red. And so I would write these $6,000 or $7,000 checks, one each for each my Capital One, put cash in my account, and then I would transfer that on. This is probably illegal too. Then I would transfer those balances to my investment. I did it again until I maxed out 60,000 on my 2 investment expresses, and the 6,000 to 7,000 on both my Capital One. I put them in the detailed account, and it was a margin account. And so, net on the long short. What year are you talking about? We're talking 2000. Yeah, so I have not had to file bankruptcy. So I was trading long short stock portfolio with balance. So to me it was big, you know, I wasn't that on it. It's just a senior. You can sing with it, though. That's works out. So that was a lot of fun, and pretty much
$14 million. I have since paid off. So I have this passion for finance and for investment management, although I never really worked for anyone. And I was taking all the finance classes that I could. So when this opportunity came, I was when we sat down and we were talking about since 2007, or January 2008. So they had just become, you probably found this in most public lands are run at the county or city level. And when they run at state level, it's only for teachers, so they have helping teachers, public employees. It's a percentage. Utah only goes all the counties, municipalities, state, public workers, and then the universities into single and takes the contributions from the employers, takes the salary of the individuals, and they give that money and try to grow for the pension liabilities of the retirees, go down the road. And so the combined assets under management today is they're very diverse portfolio, and at the time they had nothing in that. And they had just determined they were going to offer 18% investment stock and chief investment officer. One somewhat senior investment analyst. They were hiring a couple extras that I came on and I was school to work on not only the investments but the years of and within 6 months I took a full-time job and started doing all the since then we put out that all of our private equity was managed through 3 great people. We want to diversify, we're going to do it, we're fine. And so there's not a lot of involvement in that. And recently, we were also leveraging real estate at the very back time. 90% of our credit portfolio was competitively allocated to real estate, but it was levered to 15 to 16%. Downside investment that comes with a lot of out, and 90+% now we've restructured our real estate portfolio into assets that include a much smaller piece of real estate, but the rest of the 13%, so 6% real estate, the rest of the 13% is real assets. So private ownership, really a subset of and that's what we've been doing. My role in URS investment council is to take the deal to the investment analyst group around the investments. We do $50 to $100 million for investment. Pretty much we can do the rest of the box and all of the since 2017, negotiated over 100 private investments energy, infrastructure, $10 billion really try to focus on changing the industry to not think about what the market always, but to think about what makes sense and take that out and do something different and different. Like this 2008 security crisis on hedge funds, because hedge funds go out there and money totally restricted to their investors, because it's assets, they couldn't be out of for a year or two. It was very well known that we learned a lot about the investors that led us to thinking that we call hybrid funds, where you might have more private equity rolling 3-year periods of liquidity with performance and not at URS, I do what is a little bit maybe you see on the side of the house, but it can be fun, and it's something that maybe that helps you feel that you get in this class. Really hard. It's very tough. For a while, I actually came up with girls who were I have 2 cats, I have 2 dogs, I have 2 boys. Kind of different. That's the Johnson story. Questions for Jonathan? You want to go straight to the end? Let's go to the end quick. I did it again, actually. Let's never finish. 2 dogs, 2 kids, 2 very perfect numbers. 2 is a perfect number. That's impossible. You figure it out. You figure that out. You give the non-accounting you have. Extra credit, restriction purchase, school, accreditation. We will make up some sort of fancy word. What's that? All right, so I'm Ken. Jonathan mentioned we've been friends for a while. He's one of the best students I've ever had. I was speaking to Ben McAllen, down there. I mentioned Jonathan and I are working on another project besides this project. And he said, "Oh, who are you doing that with?" And I said, "Jonathan Porter," and he's one of my better speakers. And Ben McAllen has had a lot of students, and he manages like thousands of people for the county. He's like, "I'm with Jonathan, he's one of my better speakers." There you go. Wow. So, I'm 44. I went to college at BYU, 2 BYU degrees. My wife has 2 university degrees. Red car, Utah plays, season football days. We're very glad. But coming out of college in 1991, as an undergrad, UConn undergrad, I did not have any job. So, frankly, I just stayed in school. And I went straight through the MBA program, which I totally don't recommend. I think I would have gotten more out of my MBA program if I worked first. But I convinced them, since I had all this entrepreneurial experience, that they should let me in the MBA program. I effectively went straight through. And when I got out in 1993, I had the option of going to Chicago and working on a Chicago trading floor. I'd done this project at the university for Frito-Lay, this
derivatives analysis on soybean modeling. And I created this system that said if you use this kind of technical trading models over historical periods, you would have made this kind of money and protected this kind of risk and soybeans. And everybody thought it was just fabulous. Which to me just told me, you guys are all stupid. If you can't see why this model doesn't work, then I don't want to go work for you guys. And there were some of the brighter people in the industry. At the same time, I had bought a computer to take with me to the MBA program. In 1993, they recommended that you bring a notebook to class. I had an NC notebook. It was 386, it was thick. And I was one of the only people that had one, so I used to play around with my computer in the background. I sat in the back row, unlike those of you who are here in the front. My preferred seat was right up in the back where he's going to bed. And when the lectures got a little slow, sometimes I was known to do my own thing on the computer, play a lot of video games, but usually I would teach myself Excel or learn how to format things and PowerPoint and Google design work and some other stuff. And one day I found myself, I had eaten a sandwich for my class, in my organization degree class. And I ate the sandwich, and the sandwich crumbs were falling down between the teeth. And I would tip my computer over to try and get the sandwich crumbs out of my computer. And I noticed the class dropped completely quiet. And I looked up, and the OB professor was bright in my face. And before she could say anything, Steve Gaffney, who sat all the way across on the other side, he and I were very similar. He said, "So Ken, you get a new high score?" And I got in trouble in my OB class that day. But the reason I bring it up is because I was more interested in the technical side of where the computing world was going than I did care about finance. Partially because I'd done this project for Frito-Lay and finance people just didn't seem that challenging. But all the people that I knew that were doing tech-related stuff, they all seemed like they were doing cool things. So rather than go to Chicago, I married this gal I was dating from BYU at the time. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go into tech. So I went to work for a company and did some interesting things. Coming out of school in 1993, it was still not a super good job market. But I happened to go to this party. I was at this party, and I was talking to somebody else, and we were doing at parties and talking, a little bit of small talk, and people say, what do you do, what are you interested in? I met a guy, and his name was Paul Olson. Anybody know Paul? Anybody know? Okay. So I know Paul Olson. Before Paul got to be 7, I think. And I said, Paul, so Paul, what do you do? Paul's like, I work for Folio Corporation. I'm like, I've never heard of Folio. What is Folio? He's like, oh, we are in the electronic publishing industry. The new wave is we're taking all these big books that people publish, and we're going to take them and publish them on CD-ROMs, right? And in fact, we're so cool that we can compress the data so it takes fewer CD-ROMs, because CD-ROMs are really expensive to produce. Back in 1993. And so we compress all this data and we let you instantly search stuff. So rather than having to go out to the book and try and index it back and think of you want, you can just keyword search and say, I'm looking for this word or this other phrase, or I'm looking for this concept. Find all the synonyms for it. And it'll just instantly go through and find all this for it. And I was like, that's pretty cool. What do you know about the SQL standard? I understand that there's some initiatives to be able to standardize electronic text to make it easier for Thomson Publishing, for example, to be able to send their data over to the Elsevier, or for you to be able to reformat your data for different types of compute systems. Paul's like, huh, what do you think Paul said? Yeah, Paul's like, you should go work for me. I'm a kid who turned down a job in Chicago, and I'm not sure what to do. I'm like, sure, I'll come work for you. So my first job, I'm going for Folio. So back in 1993, I didn't really know anything about Folio or what it was like to work at a company, per se. I just knew a little bit about the technology. What kind of things do you ask when you get into the job? So
At 23?
I'm 23. What do I ask?
What are my vacation days?
Vacation. All right, so for me, I didn't care for the vacation, right? The pay was the number one thing, like how much money you can make, right? And it was more money than I could ever imagine. It wasn't that much money. But at the time, being a college student with college loans and not knowing what the real world was like, I thought, oh my gosh, that's quite a bit of money. I'll take it. Right? Pardon? It was like $45,000. But $45,000 back in 1993 was a lot of money. Right? And it's probably because I had an agent, right? So, nothing that all right, so you find that I'll answer just about any questions you ask me. I'm not very shy. What did I not ask?
We have to go to it.
Any Alan? Okay. You know? Yeah. You said it? Ownership. What do you think about ownership? All right. Equity. Ownership. Stock. I had no idea what that was. I have a financial background, like I knew how to do the public modeling, and my dad was a stockbroker, was talk about stocks, but never heard of me. Right? So I got my pay. I actually go, the hours were relatively long, but I had kids at the time. And my wife and I worked with the athletes, so it was okay to, if I thought work was interesting, I'd go do my thing. And I'd run in every once in a while to this guy in the hallway that I'd never seen before. And they were dressed up, suits and ties. The ties look like your tie. It's got a cool knot, it's unbone, it's down to the bottom, it's not all the way cut up. That's how we dressed, right? These guys were the investors in the company, right? We were privately financed. So we had venture capitalists who would come out before we figured out them, and I'd bump into them. I didn't really understand how the world worked. I was just kind of doing my own thing, right? So, one day, I'm at a party in my neighborhood, right? Well, I live in Sugar House. It's like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and then like the Sheep Street. Like I live on the Sheep Street, but my neighbors were all like super wealthy, like doctors and stuff. So I'm hanging out at the party, and some guy's like, I'm an anesthesiologist, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and I'm like, I do so things. There were a couple of trees in the room, and then there's one guy, and his name is Elliot Gates. You know Elliot? Elliot's interesting. Says, oh, I work in free publishing. I'm like, what do you mean free publishing? He says, oh, well, if you've ever seen like the movie Godzilla, it's very new at the time. That was the latest 3D graphics. He's like, well, if you've ever seen Godzilla, we build Godzilla. Right? So the movie theaters want to have a movie and they need somebody to actually create all of the content. And besides Godzilla, when they destroy a Ferrari in the movie or whatever the car was, we don't actually destroy a Ferrari. What we do is we make a 3D digital model of Ferrari and then we destroy the model with computer graphics and it looks like it's real, but it's still a ball of Ferrari. So, and incidentally, when the next movie theater needs a Ferrari, we've already built one, and we get to sell them the one we've already built, even though it doesn't cost us anything. So we continue to sell all the digital content we have. It's not proprietary. We give somebody 10% off if they let us put that in the library, and then we can sell the same thing over and over and over again for not all the costs. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. What do you know about because I'm like the total computer geek, I read all stuff. I said, well, what do you know about the virtual reality marketplace? Like, what do you know about trying to get formats between different computer systems? Because I understand that, like, if you have a Silicon Graphics workstation, it's really hard to get your data from this other type of workstation. It's a good format to get things back and forth. And if you're trying to publish this data, don't you in some way so that somebody builds it up in one format and then you can another one, you can choose to the other format before you sell it? What does it say? He's like, come on, come work for me. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to come work for you. How many employees do you have already? He's like, I got 30 employees. And I'm like, well, Folio is a much more stable company. We've got like 100 employees. And by the way, I got to do this real cool stuff with Folio. One of the interesting things I did with Folio was the Folio software lets you search stuff, right? You can actually keyword search things, really early. Well, the executives one day come talk to me and they're like, hey, Ken, we've got this really cool project that we want you to build Unix middleware platform for search and stuff. And I'm like, okay, you have me. What does the middleware do? And they're like, well, it sits in the middle, and the thing it does in the middle is it allows somebody at the law school, or the law firm, instead of having to actually take these CDs and then download them all the time, they can just get into the terminal and they can connect to the Unix system, and they can actually look up all this data, over this modem connection, so you don't actually have to ship the CDs out. And that way, the second something changes, everybody's got instant access to all this new stuff. I was like, okay. So I went out and I talked to people about Unix middleware. Does anybody know about the Unix world? Right? Yeah. So at the time, Unix world was a problem, right? Everybody thought it was the greatest thing ever. But my executives didn't really understand what they were asking for. I'm sure this never happens to you at your job, where your bosses don't even know what they're talking about. So I went out and did a little research, and I'm like, oh, Unix. Well, there's HPUX, and there's Solaris, and there's AIX. And if you buy new Apache stuff, you only get this flavor. And if you buy stuff from Sun, you only get this one. If you buy stuff from IBM, you only get this one. Well, that's interesting. So what you're telling me is, it's not really one thing that I have to build. I have to build 3 different things. Because our customers use all these different platforms. There's actually more than 3. So that's interesting. It's going to be 3 or 4 times more work than you guys expected to build this thing you want to do. And by the way, what does it cost to hire a developer that works on these platforms? Well, it's twice as expensive as our Mac and our Windows developer. And when you want somebody to test that, that's twice as expensive too. You have to buy the equipment to actually build it in the first place to do that testing. That stuff's twice as expensive. It's like you just got more and more expensive all the time. So I'm adding up all the cost of it. I'm like, this is astronomically expensive. My management team has no idea how expensive this is. And I'm going through this, and I'm talking to an engineer, and his name is Grant Beckman. You know Grant? Grant is a great engineer. So Grant and I, we have our feet up on the table, and we're lying about how stupid all the people are that we have to interact with in front of this result. We're like, what should we really do here? If the high-level goal is, we don't want to have to ship CDs out, how would we do that without building a system where we've got humans on the back end and people are on the proprietary farm? Beckman goes, hey, I heard about this thing called Internet. It's going to be really cool. So Beckman and I made this little proposal. I licensed an internet server, and we backed the Windows NT platform. So I had to pitch to my executive, scrap the whole Unix middleware world. Let's build a web server and let's build it on Windows. What are those like? You guys got to be kidding. Like internet? Nobody's going to buy that stuff. And they said, oh, like Windows? Like, you could never run like enterprise software on a Windows platform. That stuff will never work either. And back when I were pretty persuasive, and we said, look, I think you know what you're trying to accomplish. You can never get there. You guys do not have enough money to be able to build this kind of stuff. And this stuff's all going to disappear in favor of something else. I had a specific conversation with a guy, and he was kind of an inbound CEO who cuts a real break on this. And he's like, so Kroll, you really think this internet thing's going to work? You really think people will buy enterprise software on this platform? Do you want to make that bet? And I'm like, it's your company, so it's not my company, but if it were my company, that's the bet. So let's make that bet. And we built some of the first internet search technology. I built a website, and it had a set folder at the bottom. You can even have a search window. I had a picture of the sphere. This was our website in like 1994. We won an award for this. We were like the number 10 website. Anyway, my point in bringing this up is I'm talking to Elliot Jacobson. Elliot Jacobson saying, you should come work for my stuff. Well, part of the thing I'm thinking about at the time that he's saying he's doing this cool 3D stuff is after we built the cool internet technology platform, these guys were like, we don't really know if the internet's going to make it. We don't know if we want to invest in stuff. I built a crawler to be able to index other people's content so we can start publishing on the internet. So, the key here, not that good, right? The other use the more political transition where you use to search for stuff and you look 1995. Right? So it was a crooked bit, like that. Right? So we had a lot of support for Chipotle, but the rest of these guys, I never really see the vision. So at the time, I'm thinking, I'd be kind of cool to work someplace that has some vision. And you know, I don't know, it's a little closer to work, a little closer to home, and I don't know what else I'm going to ask. What am I going to ask? You know, it's like, hey, you should come work for me.
If you heard of the internet.
You ever do that?
Yeah, see if you can bring some of your knowledge with.
And he passed all my technical requirements. So I didn't ask him about that, right? The other thing I said was,
You start asking about stock membership at this point.
yeah, so I'm like, do I give you stock? He's like, yes. You can get 20,000 shares. Right? What do I think?
How many shares sold?
No, I don't think that. I'm like 26, work for one venture capital company, never have venture class. I'm like, oh my God, 20,000, that would be a lot of shares.
Value per share?
Yeah, that sounds like a great deal. So the other thing is, I already told you what I made here. He offered me, he asked me what I made, right? He asked me on the spot, he said, to work for me. I'm like, I'm not going to work for you. He's like, what do you make? I told him, and nobody ever asked me like that except for you. So I just told him what I made. And he just added $5,000 to $7,000 for it. He's like, well, I'll pay you this, right? So I'm like, well, I guess I'm working for you now. Well, as soon as I figured out the stock thing, I basically said what. So I left Photo Corporation and I went to work for Viewpoint Digital. Right? I went to work for Viewpoint Digital, and Viewpoint Digital also had venture capitalists that were invested in Viewpoint Digital. Viewpoint Digital had a group called Tommy Perkins. And a group called Tommy Lee. You've heard of these two? Yes, what do you know about that? Yes, biggest, oldest, most respected. I have a home in lab. Yeah, so these are essentially the top two venture firms in the entire world, right? That invested in this company. And by the way, from Lindblad is Ann Lindblad, so she's the most powerful woman in the entire world. So I switched gears. Part of it's unknowingly for me. Then I negotiated some stock. Turns out I probably had stock in Folia, but I never asked about it, so I didn't know what the securities was, and I didn't know how much I had, and I didn't stay for the 4-year investment period, so I just left. But the Viewpoint Digital actually gets some things. I'm like, okay, so we've got these 20,000 shares. So I stick around for a couple of years to build some interesting stuff. I get to work with Microsoft and some of their 3D platforms. And we sell Viewpoint Digital to Computer Associates. We call them today, Computer Associates. And everybody is capped out. Right? So I just walk into the CEO's office one day and he's like, so Cole, you've got 20,000 shares. That'll be, $30,000, $40,000, whatever it is. Here's money. It's like, this is pretty cool. I can do this, right? So I know a little bit about how this is starting to work. And about the same time this whole thing was going down, the Sony company, by the way, anybody know that? Yeah?
Yeah, my older brother.
Is he happy?
I think he's fairly happy now.
Dude, it's got to be really tough because that was like my worst work experience ever. I had like this landscaping job in high school. Way better.
He works mostly from home, has a ton of freedom, gets paid quite well. So I think he's fairly happy.
This experience is different than mine. I'm going to work every day. All the fun stuff I did disappeared. And I didn't get paid very much. Like I didn't get a raise or bonus. So essentially, the pay stayed the same, but then all my stock disappeared. And it's like, oh, but now you have to work for computer services. That's not really that good. But while I'm hanging around lamenting that I work for computer services, I get a phone call. I get a phone call from my buddy's dad. Paul. And Paul says, you can't. That is a really cool thing. And I'm like, oh yeah? Well, I got to go into that internet stuff last time. That was pretty fun. What are you working on? And he's like, so it turns out that now everybody else has built a search engine. So Google and Alta Vista and Yahoo and everybody else, like, they kind of beat Folio. You were right, we really should have done internet stuff. All right, but it turns out with the Folio platform we built, a lot of folks use it for different types of technology. It turns out Paul, he's a really smart guy. Paul goes out and he interviews all the customers that are using Folio products for something other than electronic question. He's like, why did you buy this? What are you doing with it? And it turns out, more than anything else, those people are using it for actually help desk and customer support. I was like, no, you gotta be kidding, right? That guy's not exactly glamorous. He's been in a search that he's before. Paul's like, no, hear me out. What happens when you call customer support for IT help desk? Here's the problem. I'm like, somebody answers the phone, they ask me a couple questions about what the serial number is, or the customer ID, and then you tell them what's the problem. He's like, all right, and then how do they do? And I'm like, well, I'm writing text out, so usually this stuff, right? And Paul said, well, what do you do about that? What do you do about the fact that you get to those people on the other side of the phone and you don't know what they have to say? And I'm like, well, frankly, I just like, be real polite to them, thank you so much, and then I hang up, and then I wait about 30 seconds, and I call back. Why would I do that?
Give somebody else.
Yeah, I wait for somebody else. I answer the person that I had on the phone is on another phone call, and then I call up to the one to somebody else. And sometimes I do, sometimes I think it's pretty good. Sometimes I get like 3 or 4 people in a row that don't know anything. But that's what we do. Paul said, interestingly enough, everybody does that. So the cost to run IT help desk for support organization is actually really high. And it turns out that this is worth a lot of money to just about everybody who does tech work. And I'm like, I'm doing math, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of people who run help desk and tech support organizations. And that's a multi-billion-dollar market. So I was like, yeah. So it turns out your first level support person, you made back in the day like $15 an hour. But you have to escalate, to a junior level person. Pretty soon you're at $90 an hour. What is the software you do? Yeah, and easily if they have to include what their overhead is and what the cost is, the cost of the company, it might be $150, right? So you can see why these organizations, they really don't want to be talking about this. And interestingly, if you can prevent, if you can get a $15 an hour person to answer a problem that a $90 an hour person knows, then you just save yourself an enormous amount of money. So Paul's going out in the market and he's trying to monetize this, and he's building a company business. And of course, his company's venture has capital back. And he's got some VC investors, not the hot shots that others like, but he's got some pretty good investors. And Paul says, hey man, you should come work for me, I'm going to make a bunch of money on this thing. So, what do I say?
Stock.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, what do I make? And it's a lot more than I was making back. It's like double what I made in the past. From a pay standpoint, but then he says, I'm going to give you 100,000 stock options. Okay? And what's that? So I'm starting to get this figured out, right? So I'm like, all right, what's the fully diluted ownership percentage that I have in your company for 100,000? What does Paul say? It's a little less than 2, but he doesn't say 2%, right? What does he say? Yeah, he says, I don't know. I have no idea. Nobody ever asked me before. Your employee hired number 30, right? They've lost a couple of employees one way. And nobody ever, even the senior people, like people way above me, nobody ever asked what their ownership percentage was in the company. So it turns out it's, 1 or 2% of the company, which is actually pretty good for new level person. And when I've been hiring executive level, C-level people, only CEOs get 4 or 5%. People who don't have CEO like vice presidents. So you may be a pretty good offer. So I said, okay. So that in my model, first of all my job offers happen when? They all happen in parties, right? The only time I get job offers. And the other thing is, I'm kind of learning this whole model of what the difference is going to make for me as an employee on the whole process. Okay. So, we work on this business 6 months. And turns out, all PCs, not as happy with Paul as Paul let me believe, right? So, one day, Paul's like, you know that new building in your office that you're moving into? That's not going to happen. Turns out, we're out of money, or we're really close to out of money. We're looking for employees that can take a little bit of a cut on the salary side to be able to work for stock, right? Some employees like, you know, I might be able to switch 5% of my pay over to stock, or I might be able to switch 10% of my pay over to stock. Well, so I've got a life that's working intact at the same time, and the whole tech world is done pretty well. We get a little bit of money, and we pay for our house right now. So I'm just like, okay. So like, I'm not at 100%. Right? Like, I'll work for 100% stock. Interestingly, when you're working for 100% stock, and the things people having layoffs, your name never makes the list. Right? We could lay off Paul, but we wouldn't save any money. So, who gets to say, right? So, I'm working for this company. I'm working for 100% stock. Well, I'm only working that way for 3 or 4 months. And all of a sudden, it's clear that we're not going to be able to raise any additional venture capital. The markets are just too hot. All of these capitalists have a ton of money to do it. So what do? You're spending more money than you're actually making, so you're bringing it back. You can't get more investment. You've laid off a bunch of employees, and you're kind of getting down to the, like, it's really painful to find out. And you can't lay off some of them because they're not going to pay. What do?
Sell the company.
You sell a company, right? Who do you sell to? So when you work in the IT help desk, what do you do?
Sell the
So this time media is not that big. All right, so it turns out there are 2 big players in this space. Right? So they both do IT help desk for customer support. So one is called Barry, and one is called interestingly enough, we build this technology that hooks directly into the help desk system, but we're also building an end-user support portal and an internal support portal, so that not only can we drive these costs down to $15 an hour person, but we can get it down to where it costs $0 an hour, because we're getting people to solve their own problems. And the way we do that is, when you know, Paul and I are licensing the web technology that I built over the Paul Corporation, and now this web portal deals with people typing in questions, how we went to solutions. So what I do is, we are a partner with Verity. We take a whole bunch of Verity data and we put it into our database. And then we invite the Verity guys over to talk to us about how this new platform can work. And we say to their head of engineering who comes out to take a look at it, we put a bunch of new documents in the system. Why don't you see if you can find, something that you've been looking for? And the guy's like, well, I've been looking for this thing forever, right? You type in a little search and present it, and there you go. We've got 400 or 500 of these, more common documents in there. And up pops in the second and third, result, here's the thing that you're looking for. He's like, oh my gosh, this looks pretty cool. So immediately we made a friend. And Verity's an interesting partner because Verity sells their software with our software. So they've got these enterprise sales guys that go out and they make a couple $100,000 a year piece. And they're closing big accounts with these multinational companies. And on 10 or 15% of their deals, they're including this company's called Knowledge. Including Knowledge software along with the Verity software. So what I pitch to these guys is, when you know that our software works, you just run this test. And by the way, instead of saying folio on or Knowledge at the top, it doesn't have the same logo. It actually says Verity. So we're like, here's what it's gonna look like when you guys get it, it's essentially all ready to go. That involves me on the back end, like just changing the graphics. They thought it was pretty good. So very few people are doing this math and saying, look, currently we don't do your stuff with 10 to 15% of our deals, and that works out to be $20,000 or $50,000 per deal. If we included your stuff with 80% of our deals, that would be $15 million. Our first year that we make an extra free cash. Tell you what, we'll give you guys $7.5 million for your company. Yeah.
No, hold out for more.
Who holds out for more?
You have a competitor.
So here's the biggest problem. What they're describing in terms of structure is called earnout. So what they're saying is, we're going to see how much money you generate, and we're going to pay you based on the amount of money you generate. So if you generate $15 million in your second year, we'll decide that your company's worth $7.5 million, and that's what we'll do to your company. Everything now. More viewing, less viewing. So we've got a couple different constituents here. One of them is we've got employees who own stock, that kind of stuff. Another is that we've got the venture capital investors. Right? Who's more excited about that offer than those people?
Venture capital.
So the venture capitalists are actually less excited. Why are the venture capitalists less excited about having to wait 2 years?
Limits outside. What's your return rate?
I'll validate it, but there's one particular
But that's not as much money to them as it is to you.
it does tie up their money, but I don't know if relative if it's less or more. But let me just tell you, the biggest issue is how much control do those guys have over the company for themselves? Venture capital. A large percent, right? They own 30 to 50% of the business. But it's not just that they own 30 to 50% and they have 30% of the influence. When the company is out of money, who has the controlling influence? The venture capital side, the investors have all the control and influence in the company. When they sell this business to Verity, and Verity's got its own set of investors, I think Verity is kind of public. So then who has all the control of the business? So Verity has all the control. So they're basically just going to hand over their investment, and they're going to wait 2 years and see what happens. Right? But they don't want that right. So, what do we do? Pardon? So we could argue, we could say, well, how about 6.5 cash, right? Do we have any other options? Oh, yeah. So we go out to currency. Interestingly, we don't actually do a lot of work with currency. Technically, we integrate with the product, but we've only sold 1 or 2 deals instead of the hundreds that we've done in the area. Right? But we do the same sort of dog and pony show, right? So Curtain Systems comes out to our office, and instead of the software having the Verity logo on the bottom, we've actually put the Peregrine logo on the bottom. Here's how our software can work. And by the way, their CTO, his name's Fred Luddy, we give him the same test, right? We preload him with a bunch of documents. He's like, let me look for something. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you can actually find stuff. I can never find this kind of stuff inside the phone. I think it'd be really cool to have this. But what's the big question then? Cost?
But they're gonna have to pay you what's gonna bring in for them.
What's their distribution channels look like? Same as Verity?
So Verity and Curtain Systems are very competitive. Turns out, they do each other. So these super high-paid guys that they hire out, most of men, it's super aggressive.
They don't know how to Verity.
So they would like to know that, but you can't actually tell them. So here's what they say. They're like, so you do a lot of business with Verity, right? We're like, yeah, we do a lot of business with Verity. Like we're on a 20% passing rate. We're out with 20% of the deals in the Northeast. It's actually more like 40% of the deals we're out. Now we can pass that. So the trend looking pretty good. And they're like, so if we buy a company, we could just stop supporting all those customers? where we could take those customers, like, we actually know who the account reps are, and we can send our people and say, oh, you really like the Mount stuff? That's too bad, because we don't know what's there anymore, but let's get those repair systems, that'd be really cool. That's what they wanted to know, right? How can we really get back to these guys? Because we really don't know. Repair systems, by the way, is San Diego. How many do you have in California back then? California, couple of you? So Repair systems, California, very new to Bay Area, right? These guys do things. So in the end, they say, how about $10 million bucks? Okay.
Yeah.
Just take it, right? I told Paul, I'm like, look, if they offer you 10, they would probably give you 11, right? But we just took the $10 million bucks. Something interesting happened at this meeting.
How much percent of the company do you have?
How much of the company do I have? I don't remember what percentage of the company I own, but it's a couple $100,000. And the interesting thing is, my wife and I have been piling all our money into the tech investments because it's 1998. In tech, it's not like this in 1998. So we've made a ton of money. So, in fact, we made enough money that when we sell the company to Fairfield Systems costs a little bit of an attitude to everybody, like, kind of like Computer Circuits did, where they're like, we don't really have to give them the stock options because because we're such a cool company that everything's going to be on the. And I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting attitude. You know, I think I'll just take my stock and do something else. By the way, I've been to a couple parties lately, and I have what? I have more job offers, right? I can go be a CEO of this other company, right? Educational software service, they didn't make it, but I didn't know that at the time, right? It looked like a really cool thing. Another buddy who did this financial software platform, he sold to Ameritrade for like hundreds of millions of dollars. It was like totally insane. But he missed this whole thing, and I was like, nah, not that interesting. So Paul Ostrom is a little camp. So Paul's got something really cool that he's working on that he wants to go do, and he doesn't want to run this company for Fairfield Systems. I'll tell you about what Paul's working on in a minute. So Paul decides that he needs somebody to run this, and he should bail out and do something cool. He decides that person can do it. Right? So Paul comes to me and says, okay, I know you've got this other executive offer, and you've told the company that you're not going to stay. Kind of short-sighted of them not to lock up all their employees. They probably won't make that mistake again. I've got a meeting with you set up with Steve Gardner. Steve Gardner is the head of Paradigm, and Paradigm is like $3 billion public company. I've got this meeting with Steve Gardner. Why don't you just go down there and talk to him and figure out what he has to say about it? Okay, I'll do that. So I go down to Paradigm Systems, the city conference room. It's almost perfect, right? Their conference room. It's got a really huge K1. I sit on one side. Paul sits on the right-hand side. HR gal comes in, she sits on the left-hand side. Steve Gardner sits down on the other side of the table. Steve Gardner says, so Ken, I understand you don't want, that Fairfield is not that interesting to you, and the, maybe the salary is not, there's not a lot of money we can offer you to try and get you to the position. How about we offer you 300,000 shares to run this as a separate. What do I say?
Wow, it's a total.
So the company's public. I don't even know how much money they're
I said 500,000.
So turns out that that's about $800,000 worth of shares. So on top of the salary, then I'm going to get $800,000 bonus for basically being what do I say?
Done.
No.
Yes, more.
Because I'm like, if he's going to offer $800,000, he'll probably pay $8 million, right? So, Steve Gardner pauses. He's like, so Ken, for $1 million, what do you think you can really do? And I'm like, all right, Steve, let me try it. But currently, we're looking at your IT help desk and customer support. But we could also be the back-end system for this other platform that we have, which is infrastructure management. And this platform does facility management and other things as well. So not only do we provide an online flow for those people to get their costs down, but you can get an attach rate on your products that's similar to what they're using, call it 50%. So Steve, you sell X amount of software every year, and you can get a license. If you have an attach rate of 50% on your system, so even 25%, you know, our business is currently doing $2 million a year. You could build into a $20 million business in 24 to 36 months. The Paulson is not free the entire time that I basically told Steve Gardner that I want to make money. And the HR lady is totally right. Like, she's turned hell. And she's convinced that I'm going to get thrown out of the window. And what does Steve Gardner say? He's like, okay. He's like, I understand you want some other things too. You want to live in allowance to be out here in San Diego. So I bought our parents car people in crowd. So this is 1998. What's the cool car in 1998? Viper?
ZR1?
Pardon?
ZR1?
Oh, it's definitely cooler than ZR1.
Is it German?
Lambo?
So I bought
Oh, the
It's not as cool as
NSX.
that. So I bought an active NSX. What color was it? It was bright fluorescent yellow.
Nice.
My wife referred to the Acura NSX as the NSX. And this is the thing. But this is the only car I ever got propositioned in. It was a beautiful car. So I have like the hot shot life, right? So I had a huge stock package. And the other thing that I asked for is not only did I want this big package, but more importantly, I said, look, I want this other guy who works on the product marketing side of things. I want a package for him. I want to work like this. And then we've got this other guy who works over in customer support in the IT side. I want to make him a product manager, and I think we can build this $20 million business. Steve Gardner just said, all right, let's see if we can make it work. So I bought Kenny's car. I got the huge stock package. I lived out on the beach. I lived on Mission Beach in San Diego. I drove my hot shot car. I did my thing. There was an interesting time in tech world. The most interesting thing about it is I'm working on these deals, and I used to have salespeople that work for me, or they work like entirely on my stuff. And I'm going to those guys do both of the sales force. So instead of selling to customers, they would just go out and convince the other enterprise salespeople, and convince them how cool our stuff was and all that stuff. Those guys make even more money. So they have $200,000 or $300,000 a year. It's still pretty cool, except they didn't have to do stock taxes because, you know, the stock market won't go up, right? Right? So, in the midst of this whole process, I shifted like all my retirement into equity stock. We've got all our holdings are all in the stock market. Most of them are in cash, in some more or less. And I've got this job where I'm commuting out back and forth from places. So here's two things that happen around the same time frame. One is that I signed up for this $20 million plan, and I'm trying to get it in a couple years. And 6 months down the road, I put it down to the accounting. And I find, we'll call her Stephanie, right? And I'm like, Stephanie, I'm Ken, I talk to her on the phone, I run the knowledge meeting for this product. I just need to know how I did it for the hack. Right? Stephanie's like, I don't really know. You don't even mention that. And I'm like, okay, but I have this meeting with Steve Gardner where I told him I'm going to run the business so big, so I really need to have ideas for like whether my people on track and how I'm doing. And we go around this for a couple times. This goes on for a couple quarters where I can't get a straight answer on how my product line's doing because they don't really transport that way. And I'm like, this could be a problem. And then it occurs to me, this isn't really a problem because if nobody knows whether I'm on track to doing 20 million or not, then if I can't find it out, then nobody else knows. So I go back to my salespeople, and I'm like, all right, you guys, you're making $300,000 a year. Russ and Steve, I need you guys to keep track of the deals that you're selling to, so that I can add up what we have for revenue in our segment, so I can have something that looks relevant when I take it to the CEO, so that I can tell him we're on track. So it'd be cool. And I do. I take it in, and I'm like, hey, I think now we're at 7.5, now we're at 12, now we're at $15 million. It looks like everything's really cool. And one day, the truth is happening, right? What's going to happen?
Crash.
So the market's going to crash, right? So I don't look nearly as cool as I used to negotiating for me and for the guys that work for me all the time. And I don't look nearly as cool anymore for, being on this sort of trajectory. So I look more like, so I get divorced, right? I was always wobble over like whatever money's left, and most of it's spent on food. And I sell the active stuff. And I don't go out to this video anymore. But something else happens. And one day, the FBI wiretaps my business. How do we do that? For fun? Just because they got nothing else to worry about. Maybe you've heard of this company? They don't have anything else to do with the time. What happened to them?
Blue skies and rainbows.
What kind of fraud do they do? Security fraud, right? Which for a functional group, sales, marketing, operations, like who's the perpetrator on that?
Temporary.
Mostly accounting, right? Mostly accounting, right? MCI, things would do. Right? It turns out the reason I go down to my accounting department and can't get a straight answer on how my cost is doing is the accounting department, most of these people, they don't actually know how my cost is. Because they're not adding up that way, and it's on purpose. The rest of the systems are not designed that granularly. Or otherwise, I would find out that even though I think I'm doing, I'm actually doing $20 million in sales, but the company is only doing $15 million in support. 5 of that million is made up somewhere on sequential resources. Somebody's used to buy something from somebody else, and there's no cash to this gift, and the revenue, and the so, Steve Gardner, and 5 other executives did first credit. Nick Jackson. We wired out the phones of these 7 people. And we know the company did. So, here's the way this can go down. Whoever the first person who did this can spend 6 months in jail at a relatively light street and overlooking the golf course, and then get to go home and keep not the money that they paid, but most of that. And the person that brought the FBI last, that person can go to jail for 15 years. That's kind of so, who'd like to look at it? Right there. Who's the first one caught? Inside the room.
As-
Most guilty. It's not Stephanie. Stephanie actually doesn't know. The most guilty. And it's not Steve. Steve's actually the last one. He's the very last one. And the CFO, he had a heart attack on some soccer field and he died, right? And Steve Gardner, the
Do anything
CEO,
to get out of that.
while he's waiting to like be the last guy, like he's holding out the grave, he has a stroke. We're always in Who's the first guy to do it? Not me. I don't know anything. I mean, you think that I should know, right? So every once in a while I get a vibe, like, wait a minute, is something like, is that FBI wiretapping these people's phones, like something really happened? Functional head of department, right? Sales, marketing, operations, HR, PR, what are the accounting, engineering, maybe one.
sales comes home. This is the story it's told about the conversation he had with his wife. Look at this. Honey, I have some good news. And the good news is, I bought you a house today. It's in Texas. I'm going to be moving them tomorrow. It was $2 million. And the bad news is, I'm going to prison. 6 months. Then, I'll be out of prison, and I'll come get it to you in my $2 million house. Incidentally, the reason the house is in Texas is, pardon?
The prison's there?
No, the prison's not there. The bankruptcy law is different in Texas. You go to the bankruptcy law in Texas, you get to keep your primary residence, right? So that's why he's putting his primary residence. Everybody else, not so lucky. So, I get divorced, wasted a huge amount of money on this whole process. Most of my team losers, all the money that they saved up and put into the all the money. And now it doesn't look so smart to do stock package. My guys, the sales guys, they get laid off, but they have such enormous cash balances in the bank that it doesn't matter. We'll go sell software for them. So, in this process, Paul also is doing something. Paul has sold his whole position in knowledge within the well. Because Paul wants to go do something really cool. And he wants to go do something cool that most entrepreneurs think they can do. After the company's really big, and they're like, I just made a couple $1 million. I can do what? I can do the same thing again. A lot of them say that. Anyone else? I can do another startup, right? Same startup again. My gosh, the VCs are so dumb to work with us. I could totally do their job better than they do their job. I'm going to go be a venture capitalist, right? The fact of the matter is, most venture capitalists are former entrepreneurs. They've made a bunch of money on their own companies and said, I can do that job better than most of the people. That seems like a really cool thing to do. By the way, because I can run my own company well, I can also help other entrepreneurs run their company well. So Paul often says, hey, I'm going to start my own firm. I'm going to start a venture firm. Do you even know what venture firm is? So he starts a company called Eastern Capital. And it's interesting, Eastern Capital is the first venture firm, arguably the first, certainly the biggest early stage venture firm in the They bring out from California a bunch of transactional firms. They raise $110 million, a lot of money to be able to invest. And they pull together an interesting bunch of folks to be able to so before the market crash, before the FBI wiretap was Paul's out looking for money. Right? He's trying to figure out how to raise this money. He's got a guy looking in very well. So Paul, Greg, and Cal, and Penny, and a guy named Ed. Right? So these 5 guys get together and say, let's start our own venture firm. In case you can't tell, by the way, none of my backgrounds aren't unique and but we will talk about why some of the stuff is relevant in the These guys get together and say, we're going to start a venture firm. And I'm going to dinner with my and Paul says to me, hey, can I look at it? And I'm like, well, I've got this cool thing going on in Caravan. It's nice to be looking up at the CEO and we've got some things. Tell me about what you did. And Paul's like, oh, well, I'm starting a venture capital firm and I've got these other 5 partners. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting. How do you work? Well, we're going to raise $100 million. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. So, what kind of people do you go talk to? To raise the venture capital fund? And he says, well, it's mostly pension funds and endowments and other large organizations, corporate entities, but we've got some high net worth individuals that are investing into the venture capital. I'm like, oh, how does that work? Like, how much money would you have to have in order to be able to make an investment in venture capital? He says, minimum investment is, and you want to yes,
less than a million. In
500.
this case, it was $500,000. Right? Yeah, $500,000 into what undistributed stuff. Not exactly what he said. I said, well, that's interesting, right? I really wish I could do that, but I don't really have $500,000, like check there. Paul said, oh, you don't actually have to write a check for $500,000. He was like, you only have to write a check for $50,000. And then we promised that we'll only ask for $75,000 to $100,000 a year until we've gone out the whole $500,000. And then, after we pay them their $500,000, we should be selling all the companies we've invested in the same. Hopefully, give us a good return. So instead of giving you $500,000 back, we can give you $1 million back, and you can do that with that. Or something. Oh, that's really cool. You know what? I want to be a living partner. I want to be an investor in all of these. I need to be one of the early link partners in these. Interestingly, as this was tanking, and I was getting the only asset that seemed to be worth much money at all happened to be this. So that's what my partner swallowed out for 3 years. So the reason I bring this up is I've been an entrepreneur. I have worked for all these venture startups. And I have learned a little bit about how the equity side of venture investing affects average employees, especially if you pay attention. But 10 years in my career, I made this interesting clear. So one day I go to a party, right? Happens to be at Red One outside. Right? Not my friend Paul. Right? Paul's now making me 2 job offers. This is at his friend's right? And he's having a Halo party. He's got a single 20-something who can play Halo all night long. I'm in the middle of my divorce. I got nothing else going on, right? And I get partway to the party and I realize, oh, I'm supposed to bring something to the party. And there aren't any grocery stores in beer and bread packs. But there is in coffee. I've made 60 cheeseburgers for the Halo party. And I've become known as like the cheeseburger guy at the Halo party. Mostly I'm targeted at the Halo party because I don't know how to play Halo. I've met one a couple times, right? Like every year we have this meeting. It's annual meeting for Beachfront Capital. And I go and we talk about what investments look like and how to do them. And I get invited, of course, because I give them money to spend on it. But Greg invites me over to a personal party at his house. So I go play Halo and I do cheeseburgers. We play Halo till like 2 o'clock in the morning. Right? Bob says, again, what are you working on? And I'm like, oh, I got this other divorce, and the whole thing that I was working on, it was kind of a bust. And I said, I'm really looking for it because I want to work with white people, and I want to work on something that's so what do you want to say?
I'm bright.
He's like, you should come work for me. And I'm like, all right, I'll come work for you. And that was the day I made the transition from being in the tech world to go work for Beachfront Capital. So I became a venture capitalist, essentially, it was like, no, you're not coming now, you can come into the office. He said, you like it? I'm like, I know it's better than I like it. So come to the office if you want to do that. Like, you know my references, how much you can do. So I ended up working for Beachfront Capital. I worked for Beachfront Capital for 2 or 3 years. It was a little bit weird because I'm like the lead guy, I'm like the associate/analyst. But I'm also a lead partner. So I have an investment in the firm. They have to answer the pension funds and they have to answer me, but I'm also like working it. So this is really fun. But about 3 years into working for Beachfront Capital, one day, Greg gets a little bit sideways with the partner. He said, I don't think we should be doing things differently. A guy named Alan Hall came along. Alan Hall's a lawyer. And Alan Hall said, hey, Greg, I don't do this anymore. Let's go start another firm. Let's go start a firm called And instead of doing early stage venture investing, let's do later stage. That's where all the good deals are coming out of Eastern. And it's a really like the segment and the returns are relatively low. Later stage is good. And I say, I'm not saying Eastern. I'm good with the product. So I think doing my way. I don't know if there's no keep my own. Scorpions. So I was the investor and keep my own Scorpion. Recovered really well. I think they were the top firm from 2007. Interestingly, Eastern Capital raised their money in 1999, but they didn't spend it until 2000. Why is that? So tech bubbles, right? So when do you want to raise your money? Before the bubble bursts or after the bubble bursts? You want to raise it before the bubble bursts. You want to spend it before it bursts or spend it after? So after the bubble bursts, you've got all these huge bubbles, right? So they raise their money here, they spend it here, they're like the golden valley. This is what the top decile fund. Mikado raised their money in 2007, managed to avoid the whole real estate issue. We had money in Metcalf, as well as Steve Monroe, as well as Scorpion. So their returns were like 50%. People like top 10%. Anyway, in their sector, 50% is usually the sector. So these guys did pretty well. And I, in this whole process, decided, you know what? I'm good money. So I'm going to invest in another place. So that's what I want you all to play. One way I asked about stock options, but people around me know. And they transition about halfway through my career to say, I'm not going to be tech guy, I'm going to be a capital guy, a private equity guy, but still going to be so that's why I like this class, is because we talk about you guys being in partners. You're going to be the folks who go out and raise money, or these guys raise money to be able to start a firm. But you can go back and use and make investments. You may not have thought of it, but this is for me an easy way to think about how money works. So not something really comes from the limited partners. Right? The limited partners make these investments into the private equity firms, for lack of a better term. Those funds have fun. And then those folks in turn make investments in LPs. So the money goes like this. LPs then get the money over to the firm. Firm sends most of that money to that firm. Those entrepreneurs on average, in the first movement, those funds, return that impact. So that's how it. I was a tiny little partner. Not the man who's doing the life. I worked for 2 firms. I worked for 5 trucks. Anyway, it's a little longer than I was. Questions about my background? Yep. So I still have my history investment. The way these things work is they started Houston 1 in 1999 and 2000. Those funds were about 10 years. So that fund should be done in 2010. At 2013, there's still a couple of investments that did not take it out of it. But a couple of years in, these funds start Houston 2. This is not doing as well as Houston 1. And then starts Houston 3. Really not doing well. So I have part of the investment is this. I helped make investments for these things. Freddie and I made one investment in these things, and then essentially gave it back to these things. And we started in college. Coincidentally, we turned around in Colorado, and then we bought that same company from college. But we're not involved at all. Never been involved in Ricardo, on the other hand, started their firm in 2007. So this is in Product One. I have an equity interest, an ownership in Product One. But they started Product Two in 2012. And I'm technically an operating partner. So including the senior on the website for the product. But that really is a none of us do a podcast about that anymore. So I don't have a lot to do with it.
Yeah. We would always like that where it's essentially the same user kind of so if there are any structure where people pull the fund and also use it for
Well, you want to check that? You know, you're going to talk about the investment method.
So we'll definitely get into that in more detail. So that's one of the primary structural differences between what we call a hedge fund or the evergreen fund, because it does have potential convenience. Whereas private equity is typically a term fund or a finite life fund, and a big part of that reason is the nature of the assets. So in the hedge fund, you might be trading bank debt, CEO, or stocks, or bankruptcy companies, or anything. The cyclical nature allows for more of a continued liquidity for your investment. And investing in these companies you were earlier in the stage is very low liquid. The reason they've all started, when Fund 2 starts, it's called 4 or 5 years from Fund 1. And that's because if they call, you said 100 million, they getting 100 million for that?
Yeah.
So the general rule is that you've got to, this is the market is that to avoid conflicts of, let's say Fund 1 makes its first several investments, and they can already tell, and so you can already tell, it's going to be really rapidly covered in their losses, and they're only getting 20% of the profits with over the life of the entire fund in the aggregate, all of the investments make a profit. So they get in here, and they've only spent $40 million in some investments tank. So it could be incentivized to start a new fund right then. Clean slate, new track record. But then where is that competing with the good deals? The problem, so all the good deals would go in here, and we'll just all let that run off, and invest in this. So these will start after they call something like 70, 80, 90% of that 100 million and put it to work. Or they'll have a defined investment period where they only have 5 years. They put that money to work, and if they don't put 80 by the end of 5 years, they can't call any capital because they want to make sure they want credit for their situation. They're supposed to end in 2010.
Maybe in the liver part, like the pension funds and stuff. Right?
So you wait until you made all the investments in year 10, you say, you don't really say, okay, now, you negotiate that up front, saying that we don't want you to create another fund, you continue with that fund, until you put almost all of them over the things. And it's mostly the life of those assets, and that trail of your liquidity, that drives private equity to the buyback side. So that eventually that trail can draw down. And if you like the manager in that fund, then you go to that fund too, and they continue that strategy with the but you look at the assets, and that's one thing that Aaron and I talk a lot about is why do you have to keep yourself inside of the confines of the scope? It's back to that question of, are we asking about the market, what's normal, what people do, or are we asking what makes sense, what will work, and what will be better? And so I think there are cases, and I really do think there are cases, depending on the asset, and and the expectations of the investors and the liquidity. But you could do something that we're going to make these investments, we're going to try to do ones that are not so early stage, or later stage, so they're a little more liquid, we're going to have some ideas that we need to sell in the secondary market. So instead of making you wait 10 to 13 years to get your money back, we'll do something like every 3 years, you have the opportunity to pay half your money. But you got to give us a year notice, because it's going to take us some time to look at it. And in that scenario, you could have this go on forever. The trouble you run into is you've got to avoid the situation where, and this is what I alluded to about 2008, 2009 hedge funds, is they do that. They didn't manage that liquidity right. They give their investors, in this context, 3-year liquidity window, so you can take out half of it. Market went bad, and their investors were not the long-term type of investors, like public funds, public pension funds. They're more of the fund funds and high net worth and people that when they're squeezed on the market, they need their money back. So they say, hey, here's my notice, I want my money. Well, that's 70% of the fund that just go completely wants their money back. You can liquidate the assets. So that's the risk you got to get around by trying to apply everything. That's a good lead in to what I was going to talk about from the start. So we can do introductions in this case, and then
So we're going to ask you to talk about yourselves for a minute, because that's what I talked about also. We're going to ask you to mention your name, your work, whether you're doing it related to the finance sector, on either the entrepreneurial side or the investment firm side, or just whatever it is you for. What was your undergraduate major that you go to review when you were in school? And then we're asking for something different about you. A joke, a nickname, why you took this class, or something you have planned. By the way, if you choose why you took this class, the answer has to be unique.